All right, well, let's take a look at the activities for this week, May 28th through June 2nd. It's Memorial Day, and I hope that I guess we're not supposed to say we have a happy Memorial Day with all kinds of wonderful things, but that we remember those who've passed on. And I think in particular those who have sacrificed for our nation and our country to be a free one. So I'm grateful for those who have done so. I just recently, in fact, saw a World War I draft for my great-grandfather, and I think that because he had a family and was a farmer, he was able to not go and fight in World War I. But then my grandfather himself spent a lot of time in World War II, and my father was in the Vietnam War. So anyway, I'm grateful for those who went before, and I hope you are too, for our country. It's May 28th, so here are the activities for this week in our class. The focus is on selecting and defining a research topic, and really by the end of this week, I hope that you can define a pretty clear area, at least, that you would like to look at and study for this class. And so as we get started now, we're starting this activity of reading research reports on your topic. And in order for you to be ready to submit your preliminary literature review, due in a few weeks, you need to start right now to read scholarly articles within an area of research interest to you. So what you want to do is use the discussion for this week, in which you will talk about what your research interest areas are, to kind of narrow this down, and then be reading articles that are peer-reviewed or published books on a subject that you would like to focus on for your research interest area, and that you're going to write about quite a bit in this class as well. Now it says most articles that you read should be research reports, meaning that they report on a research study done and include findings from the study. Some articles could be analyses or summaries of research reports or other types of publications, however, but you want most of them, and I'm talking about really most, like almost all of them, should be research reports, meaning that they report on a research study done. Now, for each article you read, copy the reference information in APA format like these examples. So here's an example from a journal article. Here's an example from a book or a book section. And these are ones that I have played a part in writing. So see the publication manual for the APA 6th edition, which you should have in your possession. Or you can go to the OWL Purdue. So for each one that you read, you should take the information here, and this will become your reference list for anything that cites those articles that you read. And then you should also include some information about what the article said, particularly the findings of the research study that you read. So make sure that you are doing this, that you read 2 to 3 research articles related to an area of interest each week, and you'll be fine when it comes to writing your lit review and research plan for this class. You'll have a good idea of what you can write about, what maybe the gap in the literature is. And I think I mentioned this before, but make sure that you, for your research study, you want to find that gap in the literature. You want to find that information that is not quite studied yet, or the items that haven't been studied from the research that you're reading. So you can read a lot of articles. You have to read a lot of articles in order to know what that gap is, in order to find where the gap in the research lies. And so that's what you're looking for. So yeah, so take notes on the article, put these close to your citation, list some of the main points made that stick out to you. Maybe there's something about the study procedures and methods, and be sure to include what the findings were, especially if they're relevant to your interest areas, as you take notes on each article that you read. So that's one thing to get started to do, is reading research reports on your topic. And let me just show you a few examples of some of the kinds of research reports that maybe you shouldn't read and some kind that you should. For instance, I love Outside magazine. It's a great journal for outdoor things, but it is a popular publication. So I mean, if I look at Outside online here, we have a lot of different information that I can get. The coolest Chacos collab we've ever seen, LL Bean sued again over return policy change. van life gear that we want to buy. So this would be an example of something that you do not want to be reading for your research purposes, even if your research might be about activities outside or summer activities or things like that, and their effects on people's, I don't know, their happiness. This is probably not a source that you want to read. You're looking into more scholarly sources of information. And even here in the Outside magazine, there's a great article that says, "Can running actually be good for your knees?" And so you might think, oh, this is great. It's telling me if running is good for my knees or not. But what this is a secondary source. It's telling us where the primary source that it gets comes from. And it's giving us the information, and it's good information from a study. But this is not the actual study. This is Outside magazine reporting the study. So what you would want to do then is go to the study that it reports if there's information here that you want to know about. So it says methods. A study in the journal Medical Science Sports Exercise tracked this many runners over 7.1 years and so forth. Well, this is probably the link that I want to click on to find the actual study that I'm going to read. And there it is. So this is actually listed out pretty simply. You probably want to find the full article. This is not the full article. It's just a quick, overview of what the article says. You probably want to find the full article, get that APA formatted reference to it, but this is more of a scholarly work. Another example of maybe something that, and how do you know this is more of a scholarly work? It's because it's the original report of the article. So you have a methods section, and it talks about how those things that were conducted in the study. It was written by the person who actually conducted the study, rather than by somebody who's just commenting on it, but actually didn't conduct the study, like in this example. Here's another example of a magazine that you probably don't want to use as a primary source. This is not a primary source. And it's called Popular Science, right? This is a Popular Science. It's a popular publication. And again, you can look at things like lab-grown meat might not be the answer to our protein problem, etc. There's a lot of things that are might be kind of interesting in here, but this is not a primary source of information. And so the information that you received last week will help you to get to primary sources of information to read these articles. As you go to Northern State University's library, for instance, you can go to the library website and you can find plenty of database sites to look on for primary sources of information. What's great about this too is that most of the sources in here are primary. So actually one thing that I do is I go to databases in the library website, and then for education research, which is usually what I'm doing, I go to EDER. And this is one that was mentioned in your book. I'm off campus right now, so I do have to enter in my information to get there. But once I am there, I can look up databases or information from EDER, which is basically all primary research. So I can look at the effects of, let's see, standards-based grading. Some people have mentioned that. Well, I left the G off. Do another search here, see if I can find something. Alright, so here's a quantitative study of standards-based grading practices. So this is already telling me that this is a research report. It's a study that was reported. And I can view the abstract and see that that is the case, but it doesn't have the full source, so I can do a search a little bit more for that. Hit the Find It at NSU link to see if I can gather more information on that. Maybe I could go up here and look at this one. This one has PDF full text, so I can pull up the full text. What you're kind of looking for, though, is to see that these authors listed here are the actual people that ran the study, and they're the ones reporting on the study that they ran. And you're also looking for a methods section. Here we go, research methods. And in that section, it's going to talk about what they actually did to collect the data and to provide study information. So, what were the instruments that they used, who were their participants, and so forth. That gives me a real big clue that this is a research study report and not just somebody talking about research somebody else did. So that's what you want to focus on when you look for these things.